If you practice making videos, it gets a lot easier to make videos. And if you build a platform making videos, that's the reason why people are there. You might call it content. I've been producing content for the internet for more than a decade, and I hope my content has become less generic over the years. I've received feedback that I communicate too abstractly. When I hear this, I try to make my stuff make more sense. My goal is to produce cohesive structures, though it does take time to produce cohesion, and without consistent funding, I often run out of energy. The reason I produce content for the internet is to make intergenerational media literacy more likely. I think it's pretty important for communities to be able to recognize the goals and values of their members. I attended a research oriented university for undergrad. There, I helped conduct research in both the Photonic Systems Lab and the Adult Learning Lab. These projects were related to nanofabrication and adult cognition. These experiences shaped the ways that I approach engineering. I was able to speak with professors about which kinds of data we were collecting and what kinds of insights we could possibly gain from that. I also got experience doing the same thing multiple times in a row with slightly different variations. Perhaps more significantly, I got experience considering the kinds of questions that professors continued to ask after decades of research. Spending about 4 years in this environment gave me a lot of opportunities to practice asking questions, and also associating those questions with measurable data. I also had my first paid job as a web developer, and I appreciate this because it was geared specifically towards college students. So the kinds of tasks I was assigned were more or less designed for someone who was in my stage of learning. And this environment launched my interest into web content accessibility. If people don't understand how to navigate your content, they won't. And while I might believe a dimension of the stuff I produce should be accessible, I can measure the outcome and see that it isn't necessarily. At times, I've been frustrated by the lack of engagement from the general public with the things that I produce. But if the things I'm making aren't accessible, then it makes a lot of sense why some who might want to engage wouldn't necessarily be able to. In my experience, this is where the shoulds and oughts come in. Where people say, others should engage with my work. Others should be able to navigate the stuff that I'm doing. Okay, yeah, maybe. Where does that get us, though? If people aren't engaging, what can we do to make engagement more likely? Though I would like to point out that not all engagement is positive, not all attention is going to be constructive. So, as a person with experience producing content for the internet, I wonder what kind of culture we incentivize. Are we all racing to the bottom? Can we create media that feels rewarding to produce and engage with? Or are we all devaluing our time and labor? The research scientist in me wants to uncover the mechanisms behind whichever outcome we're making more likely. Then consider the impact on the communities that navigate whatever we produce. How can I guarantee my media has a positive impact on developing literacies? Would someone else make similar decisions after considering similar data? How can I meaningfully share my data with others who are developing literacy projects? Which data are beneficial and which data are distracting? For which purposes, which contexts, for how long, and why? I know that depending on the frame, some data can be misleading. When I say that I dropped out of school, most people don't then think to ask about my research or web development experiences. It seems that the dominant narrative is that people who drop out of school do it because they don't care about school. But when I describe the reasons why I make decisions, it's because of the schooling that I received. You could say it's because of the experiences I had while I was pursuing education, though I learned to love self directed education from school. My major in college was learning and education studies with a concentration in applied learning science. I've needed to reflect on the value that I've actually gotten from college to describe why I've navigated the world the ways that I have. If you can relate to these goals, please support my work. Thank you.